We call this Radio Free America for a reason. It's important. It's very important that we police ourselves when we have information, because I know many of you are incredibly busy. Some of you are in your cars or trucks. Some of you just got home, eating dinner, making dinner, whatever it is. And I don't like being the bearer of bad news. I really don't. I don't like controversy, believe it or not. I really don't. I don't look for fights. Now, if somebody hits me, I respond to it. I always have. Like Tucker Carlson. In May or June, he starts attacking. I ignore him attacking. But I don't like bullies either. And I don't like phonies and frauds either. And so I feel like I have some responsibility to communicate these things to you, because I don't know who else will. I'll give you an example here. Something that's really weird. We have these Epstein emails. I've been trying to stay away from this. I really have. But I want to address certain aspects of it. First of all, there's not a scintilla of information that ties President Trump to any of this stuff. Nothing, despite all the static. But there are some very weird things that are happening as a result of them. For example, many of you like Megyn Kelly, right? Now, of course, she tried to cripple President Trump's first run for office in 2016. You'll remember the first set of questions that she asked. And she says day in and day out she's not a conservative. And she's one of these people who say, I don't agree with everything that Candace Owens says, but she's a friend. Of course, she's a nut. Vile anti-Semite. Well, I don't agree with everything Tucker says, but he's a friend. How many of you have friends that are anti-Semites and bigots? And so she does this because she's a grifter. She does it because she doesn't have a single bone of principle in her body. Wasn't that long ago, she was telling my buddy Dan Bongino, I really love Mark Levin, I really love him. Today she throws the F word around like she's a drunken sailor. She must be tough and smart. But she's a very disgruntled person. She's had a number of jobs where she has failed, and here she feels she's hit her niche. And I'm going to just tell you the type of stuff that she says that most of you are not familiar with, because most of you do not watch her or listen to her. They get 3 or 4 million followers. They don't understand there's over 300 million people out there, and we get about 15 million a week just on radio. And I'm not even counting all the rest of it that it's almost impossible to count. Streaming and our podcast, which runs this program to make it more convenient for you, or our multiple apps and all the rest of it. So here it is. And I want to apologize to you in advance. It's very uncomfortable for me. It's not something I want to do. I just feel I have an obligation to reveal this stuff to you. I mean, if it were on the left, I'd certainly be revealing it to you. And she is not a conservative because she keeps saying she's not a conservative. She's an independent, So there's a piece here from Mediocrite. Megyn Kelly spends 2 solid minutes on how maybe Jeffrey Epstein was actually not a pedophile. Now, I thought I heard everything. This guy, Epstein's a monster. He was a pedophile. That's the whole point. That's the reason for the prosecutions. You got victims galore. Something, well, what the hell does she mean by that? I know she wants to say the most provocative things possible to draw attention to herself. All these people are kind of media whores. That's what they are. And so the writer says YouTube and SiriusXM host Megyn Kelly took a detour to riff about how deceased sex criminal Jeffrey Epstein might not have been an actual pedophile. Epstein dominated the news after Democrats and Republicans each released tranches of emails. That news was followed by the completion of the long-awaited discharge position to force a vote on releasing more Epstein documents. On Wednesday's edition of SiriusXM's, and we love SiriusXM, we've been on there a long time, Patriot Channel, they gave Megyn Kelly her own channel. The Megyn Kelly Show, the host spent a significant portion of the show discussing the issue with pro-Trump host Batya Ungar-Sargon, who I happen to like, who called Epstein a serial pedophile seemingly every 5 seconds, because he was a serial pedophile. But Kelly, that would be Megyn Kelly, eventually went granular on that count, exploring the, quote, difference between a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old, and claiming Epstein was, quote, into the barely legal type, unquote. I don't know, how many of you have 15-year-olds? Is that okay with you? Megyn Kelly said, as for Epstein, I said this before, but just as a reminder, I do know somebody very, very close to this case who's in a position to know virtually everything. Not everything, but virtually everything. And this person has told me from the start years and years ago that Jeffrey Epstein, in this person's view, was not a pedophile. Her guest raises her eyebrows, says, This is this person's view, who was here for a lot of this, but that was into the barely legal type. Kelly said, like, he liked 15-year-old girls, and I realize this is disgusting. Listen to this word salad. I'm definitely not trying to make an excuse for this. I'm just giving you the facts, and that he wasn't into, like, 8-year-olds. But he liked the very young teen types that could pass for even younger than they were, but would look legal to a passerby. And that is what I believed, and what I reliably was told for many years, and it wasn't until we heard from Pam Bondi that he had tens of thousands of videos of alleged, forgive me, they used to call it kiddie porn, now they call it child sexual abuse material, on his computer, that for the first time I thought, oh no, he was an actual pedophile. I mean, only a pedophile gets off on young children abuse videos. She's never clarified it. I don't know whether it's true. I have to be honest, I really don't trust Pam Bondi's word on the Epstein matters anymore. Her guest says, or anything else. Yeah, so I don't know what's true about him, but we have yet to see anybody come forward and say, I was under 10, I was under 14 when I first came within his purview. He can say that's a distinction without a difference. I think there is a difference. There's a difference between a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old, you know? Yeah. Whatever, it's sick. Every time we start talking about Epstein, it makes your skin crawl. You're right, the whole thing is just disgusting. Totally. What do you make of this, Mr. Producer? Isn't this the most bizarre discussion? She's sick, Megyn Kelly. That whole cabal. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it's different. Of course it's different, but it's still a pedophile. And why are you even... But we don't trust Pam Bondi. No. Well, whether you trust Pam Bondi or not, what's that have to do with anything? Well, it's not like an 8-year-old, you know. He's like the 15-year-old girls. And according to this report, they spent 2 minutes on this. 2 solid minutes. Just disgusting. Just disgusting. The same Megyn Kelly who says, if anything happens, to Tucker Carlson, it's Mark Levin's fault. Why? Because Mark Levin dares to mention, that Tucker Carlson seems to be an aficionado of Hitler. It keeps suggesting he supports Hitler. I've said exactly what Tucker Carlson has done. He platforms Hitler supporters, Hitler deniers, Holocaust deniers, Nick Fuentes. So this is Megyn Kelly's way of trying to intimidate me or silence me. God forbid if anything happens to any of these people. I don't want anything to happen to them. I'm not encouraging it. They seem to be encouraging it against me. So I guess, Megyn Kelly, if anything happens to me, that's on you, right? That's on you. Why doesn't Mark debate Tucker, she says. Well, let me do this to you, Megyn, and see if you would debate me. I will trash your children on radio for an hour, and I'll make sure their photos are on the internet so everybody knows what they look like. And then I'll just say, I'm just asking questions, but I'll trash them. Would you go on stage with me and debate me? then I'll trash your faith if you have one and ridicule it and go on attacking it. Would you go on the stage with somebody? What would you debate? And yes, Tucker's obsession with Hitler's supporters like Fuentes and others, and rewriting history about what happened with the Third Reich. It's funny how that doesn't draw your criticism, not once, or calling Hamas a political organization, not a terrorist organization, despite what they did on October 7th. Have you ever seen the video, Megyn? You can show it on your show. I can't show it on mine. Show it. You're disgusting. You're a buffoon. Absolute chameleon. Little cabal. Little cabal. That they have their 2, 3, 4 million followers. Ooh, look at me. No, I'd rather not. I'll deal with you later, the days and weeks ahead. Just appalling. Oh, and by the way, she says, those emails, it doesn't look good for Trump. What doesn't look good for Trump, you idiot? There's no smoking gun of any kind in there. In fact, the opposite. Crazy. No? No, yes. Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Then we have Steve Bannon. I've warned you about this guy many times, that he's a phony and a fraud. Officially so. Officially so. So the House Oversight Committee decided if the Democrats were going to cherry pick a couple emails, they'll release thousands of them. And they did. And it shows that former White House chief strategist, that would be bloated Bannon, close ally, the White House, exchanged hundreds of emails and met at least once in March 2018 with convicted sex, that would be pedophile, Megyn, sex offender and trafficker of young girls, Jeffrey Epstein. Emails between the two include discussions about getting rid of Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell and other problematic members of the Trump administration, alongside talks about influencing politics in Europe and a strange list of names and words sent by Epstein to Bannon in 2019 of June, which included Prince Andrew. Now, this would be the same bloated Bannon who made videos. And I'm not saying sex videos, no. Marketing videos or videos with Epstein trying to teach him how to deal with a hostile press. Now, ladies and gentlemen, would you be dealing with Epstein at all for any purpose, no matter the amount of money? This is the guy that pleaded guilty and then hence was convicted of having a phony charity to raise funds from many of you to build a wall that he never built in order to stay out of state prison in New York, because I guess federal prison with a fellow inmate named Bruce, Mr. Producer, was enough for him. He confessed to it. So that's Bannon. And this is Kelly. It's pretty gruesome, don't you think? This, of course, is why they attack normal conservatives. And they try and build their own niches and tell you that this is America first. What's America first? What's America first? what they're talking about? That's sick. Sick. And then we have this guy, Matt Gaetz. You're not going to believe what was just released by a federal judge on him. Again, I just think it's a responsibility, ladies and gentlemen, to clean up our own house so we can really muscle up and deal with the left and win these midterm elections. I really do.